me explain to you exactly why I don't think we're a match. Well, hey there, welcome back. I don't want to scare you, but today we're going to talk about the anatomy of ghosting. Ooh. We all know what ghosting is and are aware that it's now a verb. But let's define it so we're on the same page. Ghosting is essentially when someone stops communicating in whatever means you're communicating in. People typically don't ghost in the middle of a face-to-face conversation, and that's part of where ghosting doesn't live. But it's much more common in playing phone tag with somebody, texting, or emailing. Typically a form of communication that's sort of ping-pong, where you do something and you wait for the person to come back with something. It's not an active communication. Ghosting can be temporary or permanent. It can be done and break communication until a later time. And that later time, there's some significance to what defines the later time. In some cases, ghosting can be permanent. Most of the time, it can be very frustrating and annoying and inappropriate. But sometimes it's appropriate. Let's get the appropriate out of the way. Appropriately ghosting someone can be when things get a little out of hand. If something gets really heated with someone, or things get very unprofessional when you're trying to be professional with someone. If you have a client that's just gone off the rails and nothing you can do can possibly make them happy, and they are exhibiting signs of just being very, very difficult, people will choose to ghost. They will break communication. Hopefully they explain why, but they will break communication. If you're in a toxic relationship and you know there is no end to this toxic relationship other than parting ways, that's a time for ghosting. A specific example is if that you're in a personal relationship with someone with borderline personality disorder, engagement is all really the person cares about. So it doesn't matter what kind of engagement, negative or positive, all they want is engagement. And the only way to subvert that is to have no engagement, because there really isn't any winning. If you're a client that uses someone's services, then you sort of are ghosting if you just stop using their services because perhaps you've had a change or they've had a change and you simply have no need for their services, or they don't really supply the kind of services that you require now because your business has changed or their business has changed. As an asterisk, there are those there that would say, well, you know, that's a marketing opportunity to reach out to them and say, hey, what's changed and how can I help you, and so on and so forth. When it comes to personal connections and dating sites, people tend to get burned, so they tend to ghost, meaning if you're not a match for someone, or you start to chat with them in a way, or they show interest in you and you think, wow, we're just not a match, or they exhibit signs that scare you or make you feel uncomfortable, that's a time for ghosting, because you will, and I can guarantee that because I can attest to it, you will get burned for trying to take the high road and say, hey, let me explain to you exactly why I don't think we're a match. So that's a surprisingly long list of ways that ghosting can be positive and appropriate in a way. Let's talk about what we typically experience with ghosting. The frustration, the scratching our heads, the feeling of helplessness. Check out my 4 conversation styles as sort of a primer for what we're going to talk about now. When someone is in a conversation, it never feels good to be shut down. It feels far better to be disagreed with than it does to be shut down. You need to be validated, see status game 2, if not for your opinion, at least for your perspective. And remember, we put aside all of the negative uses of it. So dealing with positive uses, it's not a great idea to shut someone down, nor is it a great idea to just end the conversation or the communication. But people tend to use ghosting because they simply don't want to deal with a line of questioning or a demand on their time, energy, and resources. And I think this is the crux of the majority of ghosting. If you speak to someone who tends to do ghosting, and if someone tends to do ghosting, they're typically of a disconnecting or disassociating personality, where when things get a bit tough or overwhelming or stressful, or they have to make decisions, or they feel someone's demanding on their time, or someone is just having a little control over their time just by planning a meeting, they may tend to ghost. And what they feel they're doing is they're stopping that line of communication. But the person on the other side of the phone, the other side of the conversation, still has the question, still has the needs. people and personalities that do that will tend to suddenly show up later as if nothing's happened. Let me give you a scenario. You text pleasantries with your friend, you say silly things, you send them a meme, or you say, hey, how are you, da-da-da. They seem to respond right away. But then you say, hey, are we still on for Tuesday? Crickets. No response, 48 hours later. And then later on they say, oh, I was really overwhelmed, or I had a lot going on, I'm just seeing this. If this happens a lot with a particular person, then that person is exhibiting a kind of communication style of disconnection, where they go, whoa, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to have demands on my schedule. I don't want to go down that route. I don't want to commit to something. So I'll just kind of let it lay there until tomorrow, or until something conveniently happens, like a certain amount of time passes where I simply couldn't commit to it because, oh, that was yesterday. I'm so sorry. You'll find these same people extremely agreeable to doing things, especially in person. And again, I'm not beating up on them, because there is no them. It's all us, right? You may be infinitely annoyed at someone ghosting you, only to find that you do exactly the same thing. I am not demonizing the person who isn't listening to this. I'm explaining the behavior of people that could also and probably are us, okay? There are a huge amount of things wrong with digital and modern communication, and this is one of them, because you can't ghost somebody in person. Sure, you can like not show up for a party. You can look somebody in the eye and say, I'll be there tomorrow, and then not show up. Oh, I wasn't feeling good. Sure, that's a form of ghosting, but it's so much easier and efficient to accomplish that via a text message by simply not answering. It's almost like the system was set up for ghosting. So what do you do if you are the ghost or the ghosted? Let's talk about being the ghost. If you are somebody who you find now that you might have ghosted someone, or you tend to ghost by self-reflection, you go, well, I do that, don't I? First of all, bravo. Thank you for this self-reflection. It's a big deal to actually just admit that, even though you're admitting it in silence, because I can't hear you. Just understand that if you have good connections with other people, something beyond the first time casual, what have you. And I'm talking mostly about like a friendship or business connection. And yes, this would go for romantic connections as well. Just understand that it typically works out better when you're honest. Things go much better for you when you're honest. And I know I said in the beginning about being burned, and yes, that's still true. But things go better if you are honest with someone and say, look, I'm not going to do that. Not because I don't have the time for it, but because I don't have the energy for it. And if people go, what? What do you mean? You just have to show up. Well, you can have them listen to like 30 of my episodes that talk about energy, because it is a big deal. You have to show up with energy. Sometimes your energy is for one person. You have a nice intimate cup of coffee and they're like, oh, I'm going to invite 12 friends. Well, now I don't want to go. So when people understand that, it's okay. It's okay for you to prefer a certain kind of interaction. It's also okay for you to say, look, I like when we get together and do this thing, but I don't want to get deeper. I don't want to do this, or, I just want to be friends, or what have you. Understand that some people's love language includes quality time. So it's actually a really big deal, a bigger deal than you'd expect, at least, for them when you sort of don't show up for something. And when you don't show up, I also mean you simply stop responding to a message. It can be more hurtful than you would imagine when you think it's something simple. And if you think it's something simple, just tell them, no, I don't think so. It's too far. I don't feel like doing that. It's too late. I don't know. And if you're honest with them, they can use the logic in their brain to go, oh, okay, so if that's not right for you today, it's not going to be right for you next month or next year. I'll stop asking. And you'll actually make more progress with them, and you'll get to do more of the things you want to do. Is this infinitely applicable? Well, no, but it can be very helpful. If you are the ghosted, then sometimes it helps to reach out to a person to kind of reframe what you've asked them. And you're doing their job for them. But you can say, look, all I'm asking for is X. Can we do X by this date? Or Is it a big deal to do this thing? And if it is, just let me know and I won't ask again. I think if you're connected well to someone, I think your connection can stand that kind of honesty. If you have a friend, acquaintance, client, vendor, what have you, that does this and makes you uncomfortable or does it more than once, then sometimes you have to reevaluate the relationship. I mean, that is your nuclear option.
It's pronounced nuclear.
Because honestly, ghosting is a great indicator of the service level you're going to get, the quality of a client that you're going to have, the quality of a connection that you're going to have with a person, and so forth. So use it for what it is and recognize it for what it is as well. So hopefully that all made sense. I am always open to your thoughts. You can share them on Patreon for free or post on wherever you hear or see this. Thank you very much.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah.
Join the community, patreon.com/alchemy for life. Oh, and my 10th book is now coming out.
Late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.